Sure. لا بأس. شكرا. طيب. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله. اللهم اغفر لي. Let's start brief question and answer, inshallah ta'ala. And before we get started, my host has kindly requested from me, and we know that when someone kindly requests you to do something or asks you to do something, in reality he's telling you like, look, you're going to do it in a smooth way. And the guest is not supposed to what? Reject any request from the host. A very lost adab, in my humble opinion. Some brothers, they'll come over your house or they'll come to your masjid and they'll say, oh no, I don't want none of that, or don't give me any of that, or no. And I don't think that that's right. My opinion is that if you're a guest of someone, as long as it's not haram, it's not makruh in the deen, you shouldn't say no. No should not exist in your vocabulary if you're a guest. As long as it's not against the law and his messenger, of course. All right? So I was requested to remind the brothers or tell the brothers and sisters about our website and our YouTube channel, in which you can find the video, you can find the Q&A, you can find, as he said, the FMFs. Alhamdulillah, it's been very nice meeting a lot of disciples in California. Brothers that we didn't know from can and pain, as we say. Walk up to you, assalamu alaikum, jazakallah khairan, I watch HadithDisciple. The FMF on this was decent. That was nice. That was a good fight. It's a very satisfying feeling in which someone comes up to you who's a total stranger and he says, I benefit from you. I learned from you. You changed my life. You had a positive effect on me. I want to go overseas and study. And we appreciate that. And we respect that. So with that being said, it's HadithDisciple. Hadith spelled with an I, Hadith. Disciple, DISCIPL. HadithDisciple. If you're on YouTube, the only thing that you have to do is type in Hadith, and before you finish Hadith, inshallah, Disciple is going to come up with one of the results, because people have been searching it so much. And by the time you start typing Disciple, marriage, Q&A, FMF, Musa Richardson, this or that is going to pop up in the what? In the search bar. I'm not making this up. Okay, so you don't have to do but so much. Inshallah ta'ala, and HadithDisciple will pop up. So that's the YouTube channel. Also, the website is HadithDisciple.com. HadithDisciple.com, in which you can find the link to the YouTube channel. You can find the link to the personal private email service that we provide. Some people have questions which are sensitive, or they don't want to say them or whatever. You can email us at muftihadith@gmail through the website. And also there are books, ebooks, and articles, either written by myself, translated by myself, compiled by myself, and or by many of my students. And alhamdulillah, FYI, since the topic tonight was on feminism, I would say 9 out of 10, if not all of the articles by my students on that website were written by females, not brothers. Sisters who put the articles together, and even some books you can find on the website, and then many other things, the events, etc. So HadithDisciple.com. HadithDisciple is the YouTube channel. And if it wasn't for the humble request of my host, which I know really wasn't a request, I wouldn't have promoted my website. And Allah knows that we never say that. Follow us, subscribe, like. We never say that. Walillahi alhamd. Okay? And you know, that's just not our flow. We don't go around promoting and propagating, listen to me, take from me. That's not my style. It's never been my style. And people that ask all the time, who can I listen to? I never ever attach people to myself. And I never say, oh, don't listen to this one. You can, no, we don't believe in that. We believe in taking the benefit where you can find it. Certainly there's more benefit in some places than others, no doubt. There is misguidance out there, no doubt. Some people are on some crazy, wacky stuff on the internet. There's no doubt about that. But that's not the question. We're talking about people who are graduates, brothers who have studied, people who have ilm. I don't have to warn from him just because I don't agree with him and everything, or he's not a part of my clique. So there's no good in him whatsoever. Only listen to me, call to me. We're not with that stuff. What did I hamd? Khair inshallah. First question. Although Sheikh.
You could clarify the meaning of الرجال قوامون على النساء.
First question says, could you clarify the meaning of الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض الآية? in Surah An-Nisa, the famous and infamous verse that men are the qawwamun ala nisa because of what Allah has given one sex over the other, وَبِمَا أَنفَقُوا مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ, and because how they spend money. To keep things brief and simple with the time that we have to understand that how have the Muslims gotten to the stage in which they are now, in which there's gender equality, there's gender superiority, inferiority, women aren't allowed to do this, women can do that. How do we get into the mess in which we're in? Two ways. The first way, which is the dangerous way, it's all dangerous, but it's really dangerous, is those who have isolated the Quran from its twin and its pair, the Sunnah. And there's another major problem with feminist and progressive Islam. 9 out of 10 times, when someone is talking some progressive Islam, modern Islam, tolerant Islam, most cases, they'll either reject the hadiths or they will make a fine-tooth comb selection of which hadiths they take and which hadiths are fake and batil and made up and don't make any sense. And they know that the Quran, in many verses, not all verses, has a relative generality. I said relative, nisbi. Relative vagueness in certain verses that need other explanation from other verses. So we can get rid of the hadiths. The hadiths are made up. 250 years after the Prophet's life, they were written down. If we can get the Muslims from the hadiths, then the Quran, we can do what we want with it. We can interpret it how we want to. And secondly, is the actual perversion, the distortion, the diffusal of the content of the Quran. What does the Quran mean when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this? What is the Quran talking about? It really doesn't mean that. It really doesn't mean this. It's not literal. It's figurative. It's kada. At the end of the day, it's just a holy book. And we come to the mosque on Friday, and that's what Islam is in our hearts. We live secularly, we live nominally, like the Jews and the Christians, who have changed and switched and taken things and added to their religion. That's what they want us to be. In which the Quran is a book that has no tangible meaning. There's no practical ruling that is taken from the Quran. Unless it's something that suits their agenda, such as racism and colorism and prejudice. The Quran calls for equality. The Quran calls for justice. The Quran calls for this. And they'll accept that easily. The Prophet abolished the Jahiliyyah, but they won't accept الرجال قوامون على النساء. And they can't reject that because it's in the Quran. And if they say that it's not part of the Quran, then they won't be Muslim. But they say الرجال قوامون على النساء, يعني the men used to be maintainers of women. Back then, when people went out and hunted animals and brought them back on their backs and dropped them in front of the hearth and the hut. As far as in 2019, no. Men are not the protectors of women. They're not the maintainers. A woman can work. A woman should work. A woman is to provide. A woman has equal provision in the household. Or they'll say, الرجال قوامون على النساء. That is something which is Allah wants يريد الله بكم اليسر. Allah wants ease for us. So therefore, that's a hardship. They'll twist and they'll bend and they'll warp the best way they know how. Even though the Quran clearly says, الرجال قوامون, not قائمون, قوامون. So there lies no doubt. If you want a Quran that is politically correct, if you want a Quran which is totally tolerant, if you want a Quran which accepts and doesn't say this and doesn't say that, then I don't know what Quran you're going to find. And the best answer that I would give is that one day I was in the used bookstore, Sheikh, and I picked up a book in the religious section. And it was a part of, before we get into what it was a part of, the name of the book was The Politically Incorrect Quran. The Politically Incorrect Quran. And it was saying, it was bashing Muslim apologetics who say that it doesn't mean that, that's not literal, Muslims don't hate these, Muslims don't fight Muslims. It was a proof rebuking all of those doctors and scholars and thinkers and professors who try to make the Quran politically correct. And on the cover of the book was the face of a pig. It was a pig's face. That was the printing press, the company who printed the book. It was a part of the series. A pig. Wallahi, I'm not making this up. And it was called the Politically Incorrect Quran. And it was a serious thorn in the throat of these speakers and these people who say it doesn't mean that, and proving it does mean that. There is no way that you can translate that other than that. الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله. Allah gave tafdeel, one sex over the other. So how can you say that women are 101% equal with men? And Allah says بما فضل الله. How can you say that? Unless you either reject the Quran, which is a clear kufr, or you interpret it how you want to interpret it, and obviously you have freedom to do that. So I don't know what interpretation can be given except that a man is the imam of the household. A man is supposed to be the religious leader of the household. He's supposed to be the breadwinner of the household. He is supposed to be the friend, the companion, the soulmate of the wife. He's supposed to play with his children. He's supposed to enforce the rules. He's supposed to discipline his children. He's supposed to look after his children. That is what's meant by al-qawamun. The man is supposed to spend. And obviously, we can see how things become out of order when men don't work and take care of everything and provide everything. It's chaotic. It's very chaotic. Because you're not going to tell someone they can't go nowhere, obey me, come with me, give me my rights, and I'm paying the rent. I'm equal. It's my house. You can get out if you don't like it. It's a reality. This just goes to show you that illness or sickness in one part of the body is going to lead to imbalance in the other parts of the body. So men are supposed to spend. They're supposed to take care of the women. They're supposed to work. Men are supposed to be the one who do the chores and the tasks and they're supposed to be the handymen. And this goes to show us that the true sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ lies, no doubt, it calls to being old-fashioned. The true sunnah of the practice of Islam, men are supposed to be old-fashioned. The man is supposed to work and the woman is supposed to be the homemaker. That's how it's supposed to be in the true teachings of Islam. Doesn't mean a woman can't get a job. Doesn't mean that. A woman can't contribute. It doesn't mean that. A woman can't buy her husband naked. It doesn't mean that. But the woman provides. The man stays home. The woman pays half of the bills. That is not the proper way. So qawamun is crystal clear. Crystal clear. So if the Quran and the Sunnah and Islam is archaic and it's caveman-like and it's chauvinistic and it's this and it's misogynic, then so be it. We will all stand in front of Allah on the Day of Judgment. You can say to Allah, the Quran wasn't fair. It's misogyny. Beat women. Divorce women. Men can have 4 wives. You have to take that up with Allah. You have to ask Allah that on Yawm al-Qiyamah. As for me, I know what I want to say in front of Allah. آمنا به كل من عند ربنا. We believe in it. It came from our Lord. And ويسلم تسليم. We submit to it. Why is it fair that I got to work and take care of you? You stay home. Why is that fair? How is that fair? You get to sit and eat cake and drink tea, and I'm outside laboring. That's not fair. It's not my job to say what is and what isn't fair. We are Muslims. We are servants. We are slaves. So understanding these political issues and these social issues, they have to be understood in the light of وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ مَا أَنَا بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ. Allah calls us His slaves. A servant doesn't question his master. A servant doesn't disobey his master. A servant doesn't say, Master, you're wrong, you're oppressive. No, we have to know our place. So in brief, qawamun are the munfiqun, those who spend on their women, those who educate their women, those who instruct their women, and those who guide their women, and they're supportive to the women. Doesn't mean that you're a tyrant. Al-qiwama doesn't mean that you're a tyrant. Listen, brothers, being the one who's in charge, you're the imam, doesn't mean that you rule with an iron fist. It doesn't mean that you can do what you want to your wife and just, treat her like a possession on and off the shelf. It does not mean that. And at the same time, it doesn't mean that a woman can do whatever she wants to do and say what she wants to say. If that's your approach, then why be a Muslim? What's the purpose of having a religion in which you don't want to follow any rules and you can do whatever you want to do and make up what you want to make? Why even be a Muslim? It doesn't make any sense. So therefore, that's what's meant. Qawamun, spending, protecting, guiding, befriending, being there, supportive. The Prophet was supportive of his wife, and they were supportive of him. And last but not least, the non-Muslims themselves, there was a time in which the men who were kuffar were qawamuna ala nisa for many years in this country. And that is why people who attack Islam, who are Christians or Jews or other people, there's no argument that you can possibly make about anything in the Quran and Hadith. You can't say anything. Because everything that you say about Islam in the Quran is in the Bible 10 times worse. Jihad fi sabilillah, killing and doing this. How many wars are mentioned in the Bible? How many prophets fought and killed in the Bible? Slavery. And this is what the argument between the North and the South. The North and the South. The southern states, they said that slavery is mandated by God. Abraham had slaves in the Old Testament, and the New Testament did not abolish slavery. And they called the Yankees and the abolitionists, you guys are not really Christians, saying that slavery is illegal and it's an abomination. It's the will of God. It's meant to be slaves. So if you're talking about slavery in Islam, sex slaves in Islam, concubines in Islam, let's open up the Bible and let's see, what do we find about slaves in your book? What do we find about divorce and this and in your book? An atheist, he can say what he wants to say. Let him attack. Let the atheist find fault in the Quran because he believes in no religion, but not a Christian. No way, you got to be joking. Contradictions in the Quran? Are you serious? Oppression of women, anti-Semitism, and this and that. Let's look in your books. Let us look in your books, and we'll show you anti-Semitic, or we'll show you misogyny. We'll show you a list of other problems in your holy books. So it's very important for us to understand. Once again, the best defense is a what? Is a good offense. Do not accept the premise of these people who try to find fault in Islam, and they themselves have a world of controversy in their books. I would understand this? A world of controversy in their books. And Allah knows best. Any other questions, brothers and sisters? Father,
why does Allah talk about the Hurul Jannah? You know, He gives, the men all these women, this and that. And then the women complain,
clear.
When they get jealous. And
Crystal clear. Crystal clear. Allah talks about the huris, the women of Jannah, these beautiful maidens, these buxom, This is a reality. وَكَوَاعِبَ أَتْرَابًا. Quran, he says this. وَكَوَاعِبَ أَتْرَابًا. These buxom women, these busty maidens in paradise that men will have. And it's not mentioned that women will have a man with muscles or a man who's handsome. It's not mentioned. So it's two ways of looking at it. And this is one of the main doubts that people use against Islam. They use this. And they say that Islam is unfair and it's oppressive. Okay, no problem. So the first way is what I've just said. We are servants. We are slaves. We accept that Allah has given a man certain things that He has not given a woman. And there's a difference between justice and a difference between equality. And they are not the same. Justice and equality are not the same. And people, they mix the two. Justice is one thing. Equality is another. Make a simple image in your head, a vision. Imagine a picket fence. And imagine on the other side of the picket fence, there's a baseball game or a softball game. And you have two sons who want to see the softball game. And you walk them to the edge of the fence and you say, go ahead, you guys can look at the game. One of your children is 5 feet tall, and one of your children is 4 feet and 5 inches tall. The fence is 4 feet and 9 feet tall off of the ground. They're both standing, wishing to look at the softball game. Obviously, the 5-foot child can see the softball game, and the one who's 4'5" cannot see the softball game unless they pull themselves up, climb up, or whatever they can do. Is that justice or equality or neither of the two? Which of the two is that? Is that equality? Is that equal?
It's equality.
No, it's not equality. How is it equality? He can't see. It's not equal. They said, Father, Abby, can we go and try to see the softball game from behind the fence? Go ahead. Me allowing them to walk over there is called what?
Justice.
That's justice. I was just. I gave them a fair opportunity to see the game. One is naturally shorter than the other. One is naturally taller than the other. That is equality or not? That's not equality. It's not. He can see the game because he's 5 feet tall. The fence is how tall? 4 feet and 9 inches. The one who's 4 feet and 5 inches cannot what? See the game. But they're both standing on equal ground. And they both have the same opportunity to see the game. Allah made you taller, He made you shorter. Justice and equality are two different concepts. I have a 17-year-old son and I have a 10-year-old son. Do I have to give them the same amount of allowance? Of course not. A son who's in college and a son who's in middle school, they don't get the same allowance. That's justice or equality. He gets $50, hypothetically speaking, and he gets $150. Justice or equality? It's not equality, but it's definitely what? Justice. For him to be in middle school or elementary school and get $50, that's a lot of money, hypothetically speaking. I was just to both of them. But his needs are bigger, more, and greater than the one who's younger. So justice and equality, sometimes they're parallel in Islam. Jannah, both sexes going to paradise. That's equal. That's just. Men having hurul ain, women not having men of their desires is not necessarily equality. But Allah did not oppress you. Allah did not wrong you. You have no right that Allah deserves you. You didn't have to go to Jannah. Allah put you in the paradise. Some of the ulama of Islam, they say that the jinn will not go to paradise. Many scholars hold the view that the Muslim jinn, the jinn who are believers, shall not go to Jannah. They will be forgiven and they will be protected from the fire. وَيُجِرْكُمْ, it says, Allah will protect you from the fire. And it does not state that they will go to Jannah. Many ulama, they say that on the day of judgment, after the judgment is made, the righteous Muslim jinn will be turned into dust. They shall not go into paradise. Only humans will go into Jannah. Is that fair to them? Humans go to Jannah and jinn don't? Allah does not punish them. They were righteous. They don't go to the hellfire. Them going to Jannah is a virtue. That's a gift that they don't owe. Allah doesn't owe them that. But He never oppressed them. He didn't send them to the hellfire and they prayed and they did the things that they were supposed to do in their legislation. So they have this concept of God owes us something. Allah owes me. It's not right. It's not fair. Who are you to say that? Let alone the fact that justice and equality are not always the what? The same. That is a myth. That's a myth. And people who call to that progressive understanding, they're not telling the truth. They're upon that myth as well. Everything is not going to be equal in the world. That's not true. That's not right. The Prophet ﷺ was asked, Man ahaqu nasi bi husni sahabati. Who deserves my good treatment the best? What did the Prophet say? Your father and mother? What did he say? Your father and mother? What did he say? Your mother. Okay, no problem. Then next is who? Your mother. Then next is who? Your mother. Thumma abuka. Then your father. So women, hypothetically speaking of this hadith, they deserve 3 times more good treatment than a father. How is that fair? Did you impregnate yourself? Who took care of you when you were pregnant? Who paid the hospital bills? Who paid your insurance? The food cravings that you had for 9 months, who bought them for you? The couch that you're sitting on. The person who drove you to the hospital came from whose pocket? Mine. So how is it fair that the child has to give you 3 times more good treatment than me? It's not my job to make that decision. That's the rule. And the same applies to men getting things in paradise and women not getting things in paradise. Clear on that? Number 2 is the traditional or orthodox conventional answer. Man amina, those who do good deeds, min dhakarin aw untha, male or female. Allah says, فَلَنُحْيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّهُم أَجْرَهُم. Allah says that we will give them a good life and we will give them the best rewards of the best deeds, etc. That answer is correct, male and female, but in my opinion, that's not a strong answer because it's still technically unfair. Men will have a good life, men will get the reward from Allah, and so will women. But it clearly states that men will get kawa'ib atraban. Men will have 2 women of paradise as default. Okay, it's still unfair. So that answer isn't that what? It's not that strong. The bottom line is, women who are righteous will go to paradise. Women who are righteous will be rewarded. They're protected from the fire of hell. بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. And Allah gave men something more that He did not give to women. It's the bottom line. You accept it, alhamdulillah. You don't accept it, ma'asalama. Wallahi, it's that simple. That's the top and the bottom line, let alone the fact that scholars of Islam and scholars outside of Islam, they have explicitly, and we're not going to mention details of this, they say that it is totally illogical and irrational and unnatural for a woman to be in a relationship with more than one man at the same time. They say it is against the mind, it's against the spirit, and it's against the anatomy of the body of the woman. In total contrast to that of the man. In total contrast to that of the man. The woman's body is not made for multiple sexual partners in one time period. The man's body is made for multiple sexual partners in one period. That is the truth. A basic concept of this is, if a man had more than one husband, what will she do when she has to give her husband his rights and she's menstruating? Like we just said. What is she going to say? You can't have intercourse with me tonight because I'm menstruating. But a man does not what? A man does not menstruate. So hypothetically speaking, he sees his wife and he sees his next wife. Whether they have different nights or whether he goes to more than one in one night with the permission of the first wife. His body has the ability to do that. Her body does not. She becomes pregnant. She sleeps with one husband. Then she goes to another husband. And they both have the same type of traditional intercourse. Whose baby is it? Who impregnated her? Was it my first husband? Was it my second husband? Was it my third husband? Or was it my fourth husband? Or was it my right-hand possession that I had sex with? This is reality. Can you say the same about a man? Yes or no? No. The woman knows I have one husband, one sexual partner. I'm pregnant. I didn't get my menstruation this month. And it's your baby. The next woman, wife number 2, I'm pregnant. I didn't get my menstruation. I'm sick. My ankles are swollen. I'm throwing up in the morning. I took the pregnancy test. It is your baby. Wife number 3, she says it's what? Your baby. I only had sex with one man. Wife number 4 says what? Your baby. This right-hand possession says it is your baby. You can't say that about a woman. And this is basic anatomy of the human body. Nothing to do with faith. And the concept of preservation of genealogy is one of the most important principles of the Sharia. Hifdhul ansab, to preserve genealogy. Whose child is it? A woman goes into the hospital, she goes into a clinic, she gets a test, she takes a DNA test. I've had brothers who've worked in the hospital, said there was one woman who had the trace of semen of 23 men within 72 hours. Within 72 hours, the trace of 23 different men she slept with. How does that make any sense? There's no problem with a woman who has one husband. It's your child. And that's why the ulama of Islam, they say, is that a man is not allowed to deny the child being his, even if it wasn't enough time. And if he was away, and if he was fighting in a lost cause, he comes back, it's your child. It's your child. Unless you accuse her of being unchaste and you make the mula'ana. And that's because the asl is that it is your water. The asl is that it's your tilth. It's your farmland. And that's because the woman is only to have what? One husband. And that is totally contrast to that of the what? Of the man. At which a man can spread seed, sow seed. He can water more than one tilth and more than one time. Basic anatomy. Are we making this up or not? It's not the same. So these people who claim to be natural, they claim to be original, claim to be organic, they claim to be following, they're hypocrites. And they're liars. And they're ignorant. They're hypocrites, they're liars, and they are ignorant. They're not being honest with you. Not about the text of the Quran and Sunnah, nor about common sense, nor about basic, simple science. It's basic, simple science. If you can answer that and prove that that's wrong, as Muhammad Hijab said, he says, and I'll be an atheist. Not saying that I would say that, but proving the strength of his argument. He knew that that was the strongest punch that the atheist couldn't answer. And that's why he made that statement. If you can prove that wrong, I'll be an atheist today. So explain how a woman's body is made to be with more than one man at the same time. And debunk and debase how a man's body is made and designed to be with more than one woman at more than one time. Explain that. And if you can't explain that and accept that, then maybe you should be a submissive servant. And Allah knows best. Any other questions, brothers and sisters? Fadil Akhi.
It's a quick question. Is there any circumstance where when a man would divorce his wife that he's not obligated to pay her?
When a woman is divorced by a man, is there any time in which he isn't obligated to pay and provide for her during the iddah? The third divorce. The final divorce. He can't get back with her. Or have you ever played baseball or softball? When you're batting, how many strikes do you have? How many, Akhi? No, that's not right. You don't have 3 strikes.
You have 2 strikes.
You only have 2. That's right. At-talaqu marratan. In actuality, divorce is only how many times? 2. When you're at bat, the first pitch you look at, okay, it was a fastball, it was over the plate, but I want to wait. The second pitch is a strike. That's the 3rd strike, there's no more chances after that. So if you divorce your wife once, you take her back, alhamdulillah, we make up, I love you, you love me, bismillah, no problem. Then a year later, or a month later, or 5 years later, whatever, you divorce her a second time. Well, let's try to work it out. And the third argument, or she went through your phone, or you went through her phone, or whatever is the reason behind divorce, you say, anti taliq, you're divorced. That woman is now a stranger to you. She's not to remain in your house. She's not to uncover in front of you. She's not to cook for you. She's not to put on makeup and perfume. Please don't divorce me, take me back. That woman, qad banat mink. And the only thing that pertains to the 3rd talaq, the 3rd strike, is her remarrying. She has to wait that period of time before she gets with another man because of her body once more. So in actuality, there are only 2 talaqs. Once you divorce your wife the 3rd time, khalas, she's no longer your wife. You divorce your wife once, in the iddah period, she's your wife. You have to take care of her. You have to provide for her. She's not to be kicked out of the house. You're not to say, go back to your father's house. The iddah is supposed to be done in the household. And a mistake that many people make, they include the parents and their in-laws. And that's not always the best and wisest thing. Because the mother from the get-go, she was jealous. Or the mother, she never liked her. She's no good for you. You deserve something better. Divorce her, let her go. Don't take her back. Solve the problems in your house first. Or get counsel from a person of knowledge and experience. So the iddah is supposed to be in the house. And the scholars of Islam, they say that the woman is supposed to beautify herself, adorn herself. She is supposed to do everything in her power to convince you, don't let me go. Do not allow the 3rd menstruation or the 3rd tuhr, the 3rd period of purification to come. Don't allow 3 months to go by. Look how beautiful I am. She's supposed to be in the house and she's supposed to dress normally. She's supposed to beautify and adorn herself. And she's supposed to place psychological warfare on the husband. The best food that you make, cook it during the iddah. The most attractive and appealing, sexiest clothes that you have, wear them during the iddah. The sweetest perfume that you have, put it on during the iddah. And you're supposed to tell the husband, don't let me go. And that's because the man divorced the woman. It's not the khula', well, the woman wanted to be away from the man. It's a difference. Everyone understand this? And he is allowed to take her back before the iddah is over. The second divorce that he makes, the woman is supposed to what? Do the same thing. She's supposed to convince him not to let me go. The scholars of Islam, they say that if a man divorces a woman, and obviously he was displeased with the woman, not that they were mutually fighting, but he divorced her. He didn't like her. And she has 3 months to rectify the situation, to make up, to apologize, to fix the bad character, her disobedience. They say then there's no good in her, and he should not be with her. 3 months probation you have. And he says, I don't care. I don't want to do anything. You don't deserve the job anymore. Or you do deserve the job, but you need to go work for someone else. Because I gave you 3 months to stop drinking. 3 months to stop smoking. And you keep coming to work, hi. It's clearly proven that what? You don't need to be in this job. The 3rd talaq, there's none of that. Khalas. She can't marry you again unless there's a whole new contract. Everyone understand this? She's no longer your wife. There is no nafaqah. She's khalas, outside. That's one way of looking at it. And another way of looking at it, one could possibly say, rather still give her the nafaqah, even though you can't remarry her, hatta tankiha zawjan ghayra, until she marries another man. Wallahu a'lam. Any other questions? No.
If we could just go back to that premise that Aisha and Sophie sat about hitting their wives. So I know it's like the last resort, and this is something that we have to learn to accept in Islam. But it just, if you could explain it,
Crystal clear.
as to why.
Crystal clear.
Yeah.
With regards to وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ, women who refuse to obey their husbands, they refuse to be cordial, they refuse to live as they're supposed to live, فَعِذُوهُنَّ, admonish them, وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ, Do not sleep with them. وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ. And then, literal translation, hit them. فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَ لَكُمْ. If they obey you, فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا. Then bother them no longer. Why not? What's the end of the ayah? Inna Allah. What's the end of the ayah? Anyone know the end of the ayah? What's the end of the ayah from Surah An-Nisa? Yalla. I am not going to give it to you to show you a critical problem in using this ayah incorrectly. Allah says what? La. I'm not going to tell you right now. Please. Go home. Don't look at it now. Don't use Google. Go home and look at the two names of Allah that are mentioned in this verse. Listen carefully. The two names of Allah that are mentioned at the end of this verse. And you'll understand a great thing pertaining to hitting or abandoning or admonishing your wife. At the end of the day, brothers and sisters, as you clearly mentioned, we have to submit. We have to obey. But it doesn't mean that we aren't humans, right? And there are things which are difficult. If a person was once abused or saw abuse or just the concept of a man hitting his wife, maybe a hard pill to swallow for certain people. We cannot deny the reality of that. That it may be a hard pill to swallow for many people, especially in 2019. So, let's ask ourselves the question. And I'm going to compare this issue to another issue. All right? Very important issue. The Prophet ﷺ, he married Aisha, anha. That's a historical fact, right? That he married Aisha, right? But some scholars, they have some discrepancies on when he married Aisha. How old was she when he actually got married? Not the consummation, but when he got married. Was she 6 years old? Is there a problem in our society, our culture, our minds for a 40-year-old man or 43-year-old man to marry a 6-year-old girl, regardless of Iman or Islam, in our lenses? Is that problematic or not? No question. It's problematic. And I said in what? Through our lenses. And that means our lenses are right. Or they say she was 9 when he married her. 43 and 9 is very, still what? Mushkil. It's problematic in our society. Some scholars say that she was 18 years old. Some Muslim scholars say, those who say that she was 6 or 9 is a khata. Min akhta Hisham ibn Urwa. He says a mistake, it's wrong. Even if it's in this book or that book, he says this is wahm. And Aisha was 18 and he did not marry that young girl at a young age. Maybe. In our society, once more, that's still what? Problematic. For a 40-something-year-old man to marry an 18-year-old girl. In our society, they call it what? Robbing the cradle. This is a reality. In our society, let's be honest. A 40-year-old man to marry a teenager is what? It's problematic. There lies no doubt in our society. There's no question about that. There's no thinking. That's a problem in 2019 in California. Sah, Fahmi? In Stockton, California. It's a problem. So those who say that that narration is daif and she was 18, if you believe that as a muhaddith, no problem. You can have your laka ijtihad, la bas. But if you're saying that to run away from the non-Muslims, you're still in the what? In the middle of a problem. Because the Prophet didn't marry a 9-year-old girl, he married an 18-year-old girl. And they're still going to say he was lustful. And they're still going to say it's inappropriate and it's unbefitting of a prophet of God to marry such a young woman. No problem. One day I was asked this question. And I won't mention who asked me the question. They said, how did the Prophet marry someone who was so young? So, after researching the issue, of course, we studied this issue and listening to all the different YouTubers. And alhamdulillah, there are many good answers that you can find online to how and why the Prophet married Aisha at such a young age. Many good answers. Some speakers' answers are better than others, right? Stay with me now. This is directly connected to beating. Please stay with me. But one answer that I never saw anyone mention was, or two. Number one is, how many young wives did the Prophet of Islam have? If he was a pedophile, waliyadu billah. May Allah forgive me for even mentioning that word in the same sentence with the Prophet ﷺ's name. If he was a pedophile or predator, how many wives did he have of such young age? The Prophet was the political leader. He was the military general. He was the economic head. He was the head of state. If he had a taste and a loving for young girls, according to your terminology, he was a pedophile, why did he not have 9 other wives that were 9 years old? Did you ever think about that? Did you ask yourself the question, what stopped him from marrying all the young girls in Medina? Someone who's a predator or a pedophile in the United States, does he stop after one? Yes or no? No. When one girl complains, or one girl is discovered that he abused and did this, know for sure that there's what? 10 others that he did before 20 years ago, and they never said anything. Know that for sure. That's a reality. So why didn't the Prophet marry and have so many other young girls? Can you answer that question? Because that's the only pedophile that I know at school, a coach, a teacher, waliyadu billah, an uncle, a father. He molested his older daughter. He molested the middle daughter. He molested his niece. He molested the neighbor. The coach, what is it? Penn State, right? The Nittany Lions, Sandusky. How many people, how many men did they oppress? One person came out. And then they made Joe Paterno suffer. Because what? He knew what was happening, and he turned a blind eye. He knew that Sandusky was molesting men playing football for that university. He knew what was happening. This guy is in your internal teaching or coaching staff. You didn't know he was molesting men? And they stripped him of all of those wins. Joe Paterno is the most successful college football coach in history. They punished him, and he didn't do it. And that's because if one man complained, that means that they were doing it what? For such a long time. With me or not? Answer number 2, if the Prophet ﷺ married such a young woman and such a bad thing, why is it a bad thing? I asked him, why is it a bad thing for a man to marry a younger woman? Why? And you guys think about the answer right now. I just want to get to your answer very clearly. Why is it such a bad thing? What's bad about an older man being with a younger woman? Number 1 is what? Think. In our society, what's wrong with pedophilia in our society? Number 1 is what?
Age difference.
What's wrong with age difference?
Not mature.
Not mature. What if she's 20 and not mature? How many girls are immature and they're grown women? That's not logical. That's not what? That's not a logical answer. The man could be immature. Doesn't mean that they can't get married. That isn't what? That's not a logical answer. That's not a logical answer. There's some children that may be mature than some grown-ups. That's a fact. That's not logical. Thank you. She's not physically ready for a grown man to penetrate her and have intercourse with her. Right? No problem. How about a woman who's 18 years old or 20 years old and has, let's say, I don't want to mention a medical term right now. There's a problem with her private area in which it causes a great deal of discomfort and pain for her to have intercourse with her husband. And she's a grown woman. In Islam, in Arab culture, in the United States rules, it hurts when she has intercourse. If you ask 10 women, when you lost your virginity, through marriage or through boyfriend, 10 women, 9 out of 10 of them would say it was the most horrible, terrifying experience I ever had in my life. 9 out of 10 women would say that. It was uncomfortable, it hurt, I bled, it was horrible. Most people do not enjoy intercourse until several times later on. This is a fact. This is a proven fact. And that's because there are women who are not ready for intercourse. And there are men who do not conduct intercourse with a virgin in a proper way. So obviously that we've now excluded that answer. If she's physically fit at a young age, or she's physically unfit at a old age, that's not good enough. What's the next problem with pedophilia?
It's not consensual.
It's not consensual, meaning this man is oppressing her. He's taking her rights. He's violating her. Did that happen with Aisha? Or did Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu allow the marriage? Did her mother know? Did everyone know? Was it a hidden secret marriage or was it public? Which of the two? That's excluded. Point number 3 against pedophilia is what? What else is wrong with an older man being with a younger woman? What else is wrong? It's culturally, it's wrong in the culture. The mushrikun, they said that the Prophet was a madman. They said he was crazy. They said he was a poet. They said he disrespected their forefathers. They said. Did they ever once say you've married a young girl? Meaning in their culture, it wasn't what? They would have clearly attacked him if they could. And the list goes on. At the end of the conversation that I had with the person, honestly, they had no answer why an older person can't be sexually active with a younger person. They had no answer. Everyone understand this? So the Prophet oppressing a young girl is a problem. Violating a young girl, a problem. Marriage in Islam, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Aisha, is clearly a bit different. Everyone understand the point I'm trying to get to? And the same applies to beating women in our Islam. The first thing that you think about when you beat a woman or when you hit a woman is directly connected to what? What is it directly connected to? In a movie, when a man hits a woman in a movie, what's the first thing you think about, Abu Saeed? The first thing you think about, a man hitting a woman. Or you walk down the street and a boyfriend is hitting his girlfriend. What's the first thing you see or encounter? Is that the man is what? Angry. He's angry. He hits his wife out of anger. She did something to anger him. We all agree on this or not? Have you seen a man hitting his wife or hitting his girlfriend, smiling and laughing? It's an honest question. No. There's a great deal of rage and anger and a great deal of impulse. So, what does the Quran and Sunnah say about anger? What does Surah An-Nisa say about anger? If beating a woman in Islam was based off of anger and rage, then that wouldn't have been after فَعِذُهُنَّ وَهْجُرُهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. What's the worst thing that a woman can do to a man when she gets angry with him? What does she do? What do we say in our culture? He says he's in the what? The doghouse, and he sleeps on the what? Couch. No doubt about that. I'm not sleeping with you. We're not making love. I'm angry with you. So for a man to avoid and resist sexual pleasures with his wife, how do you think his patience is? What type of self-control does he have? Understand the logic I'm trying to get to? What type of self-control? A little or a lot, Abu Saeed? No question about that. For him to say, ittaqillah, fear Allah, it's haram. Don't talk to me like that. Don't do that. Allah says this, Allah says that. That proves that he's automatically what? Conscious. He's mindful of Allah. Have you seen a man hit a woman conscious of Allah? Most men, when they hit a woman afterwards, directly afterwards, they say what? I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. Something happened. Oh man, I lost my temper. Forgive me. He buys his wife a ring or a watch or a diamond. That can't take back the black eye. He busts her lip. But he's immediately remorseful, stating, I wasn't in my right what? State of mind. So how can you say, ittaqillah, this is haram, this is impermissible, and hit your wife out of rage and anger? That proves from those 2 points of the verse, regardless whether you accept it or not, whether it makes sense or not, but it proves scientifically that وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ is a bit different than what we're accustomed to seeing and hearing. It's a bit different to what? What we're accustomed. We can argue on this or not. معقول هذا يا شيخ? معقول هذا? It's a bit different. It's still hitting, no doubt. وَضْرِب. But it's not what you're seeing in the movie. It's not what you were raised up with. And your father came home drunk. And your father lost his job. And he takes out his frustration and his anger on your mother's face. That's no فَعِذُهُنَّ وَهْجُرُهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. There's none of that. He doesn't say ittaqillah. Rather, she's telling him to what? Ittaqillah. And he says what? And he slaps her. And he punches her. Everyone understand this? It's not the same. He's drunk. He's mad. He's upset. And he wants sexual intercourse. He gets on top of her and she says, no, stop, please. And he does what? Hits her. So hypothetically speaking, وَضْرِبُهُنَّ in that verse is the exact what? Opposite to our culture, pop culture, and what we've seen and experienced in our homes. Everyone understand this? Now, it doesn't mean that it still isn't painful or causes you to have some discomfort. But I think, and Allah knows best, if you're a reasonable person, you clearly see that it's not domestic abuse. And it's not just you can slap your wife and hit your wife and punch your wife. وَضْرِبُهُنَّ. No one in their right mind would say that. We didn't get into no hadiths yet. What type of darb? We're just dealing with the order of the Quran. Everyone understand this? It's no way for a drunk person to tell someone to ittaqillah.
Yeah, but they are different the wrong way. It's not answer to harm them. No.
We didn't even get there yet. The meaning of the hit, we didn't even get there yet. But we're just trying to show you that that's not what the Quran is promoting. Everyone understand this? As a drunk person ever says, fear Allah to anyone? No. Does a drunk person have control over his sexual desires? No. Alcohol is one of the greatest inhibitors to have sex. That's why men give women alcohol. They don't say no anymore. So how is it even possible for you to compare domestic abuse, women being battered and beat up, to the Quran? And that is besides the point of what's meant by وَضْرِبُهُنَّ, is it okay or not? But we've established that it isn't what you're trying to what? Paint it to be. Clear on that? I got it. But the point I'm trying to make is that this is a gateway to further understanding and accepting. That's the point I'm trying to get to. Understand or not? A man marrying a young woman, you find it difficult. It's hard. This pastor or this person says your prophet was a pedophile. That's harsh. Your prophet married a young girl. It's harsh. But when you look at it in the light in which we just explained, it's a what? It's a gateway to what? Further understanding and more what? Submission. And the same applies to وَضْرِبُهُنَّ. As far as if the Quran just said فَضْرِبُهُنَّ وَضْرِبُهُنَّ, no context, nothing before it, then it will be even more what? Difficult, of course. Just hit her. وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ فَضْرِبُهُنَّ. That would be what? That'd be a bit more problematic now. But that's not what the Quran says. Let alone, and we didn't get into the hadiths yet. We can get into the hadiths. خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ. We didn't get into that. ضَرًا غَيْرُ مُبَرِّهِ. We didn't get into that. We didn't get into any of that yet. We're just dealing with the actual wordings of the what? Of the Quran. So therefore, my advice to you in brief is to use things. It's to use the proper knowledge and science. And it is to make dua to Allah to make your heart submissive to what He has mandated. Both. Understand what's meant by that verse properly, and also ask Allah to make you submissive. And there are many things that we don't understand, or many things which may be difficult or unfair. If we're Muslims, we have to accept them. But under any circumstance, does Islam support, promote, and allow domestic abuse? That is not what's meant by that ayah. Impossible. Everyone understand this? Islam does not promote that. Islam has taken the harshest stance against alcohol. The harshest stance of all monotheistic religions. What did the Prophet ﷺ say when a man asked him for advice? He says, "La taghdab." Don't get angry. What did the Messenger of Allah ﷺ says about istawsu bin nisa khayran, treat women kindly? That's the teaching of Islam for a husband. Everyone understand this? And I don't think, like I said, anyone who's reasonable is going to reject that. وَلَا أَظُنُّ مُنْصِفًا يَأْبَاهُ. وَلَا أَظُنُّ مُنْصِفًا يَأْبَاهُ. I don't think anyone reasonable, whatever they are, is going to accept the fact that Islam does not promote to batter a woman and to beat up a woman. Clear? And Allah knows best. Khairan, inshallah. Any other questions, brothers and sisters, before we stop?
You know, in this culture, being over here, you know, all my life, seeing American women, our culture women, and they say, they're married, and they say, my husband raped me. And when you are married and you go to your wife and she pushes you, and then they claim that, you know, I'll call 911 because he raped me. Where does Islam comes over here? When, you understand what I'm saying?
Crystal clear. Another, huh?
And my other question is, like you just said, you're talking very openly. You go to your wife and she pushes you away. She pushes you away. She pushes you away. Then you start looking at other women. That's zina. You commit it, and then you say, and you know. I am talking about learning from this masjid so much that, you know, that's zina, and then if your wife says, you know, you should not shake hands with women.
But you refuse me from my rights.
No.
Clear.
You don't shake hands. I will give you an example. I was in Costco just the other day. Everybody knows me over there. This lady come from the pizza place, and she said, are you ordering the pizza for the family night? And she shake hand, my wife was here. And I'm telling you. So she said to me over there, you shouldn't shake hand, you know, because, you know, you're going here different. As a man, you go, you know, I'm the man. I said, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that because, you know, I'm a man. But on the same hand, if you are talking like this, or if you talk about, my husband raped me, or you go to wife, she pushes you away, and then you look here and there.
Clear. Who's to blame? Crystal clear. Crystal clear. Jazakallah khair, a very important question. Another red hot smoking question. You guys are trying to get me in trouble tonight.
You have this question that I'm not asking. I have no
Alhamdulillah.
I have 2 kids. I want my kids, my daughters, my son, to go on the right path.
Allah
to follow, to listen to the wife and the husband.
That's right. That's right. May Allah bless you. Crystal clear, Sheikh. So Mufti Muhammad ibn Munir, the fake imposter Mufti, he came to California And he said, beat women and rape your wife. That's what someone is going to, what? Say online, right? La ilaha illallah. Right. At the end of the day, to ask a question that's sensitive, and this applies to you as well, that takes a great deal of courage. Alhamdulillah. A great deal of courage. And it's better to be embarrassed or laughed at or be uncomfortable or emotional than live upon ignorance. And doubts about Islam, like anything else, if you leave them be, oftentimes they'll rot and fester. And now it's just a question, what's the proper understanding? And eventually it's a doubt, waliyadu billah, a doubt. Especially if someone, a brother or a sister, someone comes from a background in which they experience some trauma. So it's a very courageous and commendable thing to ask questions, all right, for brothers and sisters. And it happened in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the woman came and asked about a woman having a wet dream. And the other woman, she says, فَضَحْتِ النِّسَاء. You're exposing women. فَضَحْتِ النِّسَاء. You've exposed the women. The explanation of the hadith is, the ulama they say, is that some men, just like today, they were a bit ignorant of some aspects of sexuality of women. And some of them didn't necessarily understand or know that women have raging lusts like men do. And they eject things from their body like men do. And they have a dream and they wake up and there's wetness and moistness like men clearly know. That's what she says, فَضَحْتِ النِّسَاء. These men don't know how we think and feel. They don't know about our anatomy and sexuality. You're coming to the Prophet and now saying, هَلْ عَلَى الْمَرْأَةِ. When a woman has a wet dream, does she have to make a ghusl? You've embarrassed the women because the men don't know what women do. And what did the Prophet ﷺ do? What did he say? Oh, that's a stupid question. You shouldn't have embarrassed the women. Oh no, he says, فَبِمَا يُشْبِهُهَا وَلَدُهَا. He says, how does a child resemble her? فَبِمَا يُشْبِهُهَا وَلَدُهَا. How does a child look like a woman? Meaning through her fluids that are emitted and ejected from her body in a similar, equal, or greater way than a man ejects fluids. Everyone understand this? What that hadith means? فَبِمَا يُشْبِهُهَا وَلَدُهَا. She has fluids, the man has fluids. Who climaxes first? Who emits the most water? Ma. Will depend on the sex of the child, the resemblance of the child. The child is a boy, but it looks like the mother. The child is a girl, but she has the features of the father. The child is a boy and it looks like the father. The child is a girl and it looks like the mother. The child is a girl, but it looks like the uncle. وَهَكَذَا. Depending on who, how much, etc. Everyone understand this? Everyone understand the hadith or not? Everyone understand the hadith or not? That's what the Prophet ﷺ, he said. And that was an embarrassing question, but she still did what? Sulaim, what did she do? She asked the question. And they said, فَضَحْتِ النِّسَاء, but she still asked the question. So there's nothing wrong with asking questions which are embarrassing or a bit tough. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's a good and commendable thing, all right? So the answer to the question is very simple. And that is, with regards to a marital relationship, and a husband forces himself upon his wife, quote unquote, he rapes his wife. Or a woman refuses to give her husband the necessary intercourse or intimacy, and then he looks at a non-Muslim woman or shakes the hand or falls into zina. Who's at fault? Who's to blame? Two very important questions. I humbly feel and think, and Allah knows best, that many people who deal with these controversial issues, they live in a hypothetical world. They live in a hypothetical world that doesn't exist. And they make doubts about Islam, which are extremely rare. Like I just explained. A man hitting his wife, and he's not angry, he's not drunk, he's not impulsive, he's not. Can that even exist? Is that even going to be abuse for a man to hit his wife? Let alone, I forgot a major point, Fahmi, another major point. What's the rule on hitting someone in their face in Islam? Allowed or not allowed? Have you ever seen a movie in which a guy hits his wife and he doesn't hit her in the face? Yes or no? Yes. Where? What movie is that? And which is domestic abuse and he doesn't hit her in the face. Abu Sayyid, have you? Not saying that it can't happen, but we're talking about the monster in the minds of the people. the monster in the minds of the people. وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. The first thing you think about is what? Or punch. Where? The shoulder? The stomach? Right or wrong? So they're dealing with things which are in the real world. Everyone understand this? And the same applies to the concept of, would a man go to his wife and want to have sexual intercourse with her, and she says no, and then he forces himself upon her? Is there a woman who's in her right state of mind and she's not extremely angry at her husband for something that he did wrong and she tells him no? Think about that now. Listen very carefully to my words. Number one, she's mentally sound. Number two, the husband did no wrong to her. He didn't make anything haram, he didn't oppress her, and he tries to be romantic, or he just wants to have sex with wife, and she says no. Is that realistic for me? I'm putting you on the spot. No, this is a serious question. Wallahi, this is a serious question. What do you think, Abu Saeed? Listen, everything's fine. Assalamu alaikum, honey, I'm home. I had a great day at work. I bought you a gift. Everything is good with the kids. Alhamdulillah, we make salah. And he kisses his wife or touches his wife, and she says, no, you're not getting no intercourse. You cannot sleep with me. Is that realistic? Billah alik. هل هذا واقعي؟ واقعي ولا لا؟ واقعي؟ أبدا. She's going to say, get away from me. Don't touch me. She's not going to talk with him. She's going to give him the cold shoulder, not because she was disobedient or she did something. 9 out of 10 times is because you did something really, really wrong. Whether it's haram or not. You got another wife, you didn't tell me, or you embarrassed me, or you, whatever the case, she's extreme, za'lana. She's extremely mad at him, and it's known that she's mad at him. Can we agree on this or not? What do you think, Akhi? You agree on that? Scenario number two. Listen carefully, this is serious. Scenario number two. The sister, for whatever reason, she's za'lana, she refuses to give her husband intercourse. The brother is in his right state of mind. He's a Muslim, he's multazim, etc. And he's going to force himself and rape his wife. Waqi'i or not? What pleasure is he going to find in that from his wife? Abu Saeed. Honestly, this is his wife now. Listen carefully. This is his wife. They have children. His desires have been stirred up. He wants to sleep with his wife. What real pleasure is he going to find in smacking his wife, pulling her hair, snatching her legs open and tearing her clothes off of? Billah alik. By Allah, I ask you. How much pleasure is he going to find in that? Billah alik. This is a serious question. How much? I would say. Experts, non-Muslim experts say that men who rape women, they do not rape women because of pleasure. A rapist, his mind, his psychology is not to get pleasure. He rapes a woman out of pain. And that's the pain because he was molested, or he was raped, or he was abused, or his innocence was snatched away from him by the one who exposed him to pornography. Or he loves a woman. He lusts a woman and she refuses to acknowledge him. She refuses to like him. She says no. And he forces himself upon her, not because it's good sexually, because it's painful to him. People don't rape women just for what? Pleasure. What pleasure you get out of someone scratching you and kicking you and biting you and screaming for help and crying? In your right state of mind. Let's get critical now. Let's roll up our sleeves and let's deal with the reality. How pleasurable can that be for a man? Sheikh, someone in the right state of mind. She's scratching you, kicking you, biting you, screaming, crying at the top of her lungs. Please don't do this to me. What pleasure do you get out of that? Unless you yourself are mentally what? Disturbed. No question about that. So let's stop the games. What man in his right state of mind is going to rape his wife? What woman in her right state of mind and nothing else is going on is going to tell her husband no to sexual intercourse, who's a believing woman? How often is that going to happen? If it's possible, there lies no doubt, it's nadir. It's extremely rare. وَلَا حُكْمَ لِلنَّادِرِ. And there's no ruling for that which is rare. Everyone understand this? So oftentimes non-Muslims and weak Muslims who follow them, they bring up these hypothetical things, which if they are possible, they're rare. And the rare does not become the main issue. We can agree on this or not? There lies no doubt about that. So I don't think that that is yani, traditional or conventional for a man who's a Muslim in his right state of mind, a woman who's a Muslim in a right state of mind to rape his wife. I don't. It could happen, but I just don't think that that's practical. As far as the concept of is there such thing as rape in Islam? Can you rape your wife? Then that's yani, the word rape in itself is an extremely harsh word. And we were in the college, what was that? Manhattan or Brooklyn? I think it was Manhattan some years back. We got into trouble with some sisters at the MSA. Some of them were clear feminists. And they had a problem, and the question was, did the Prophet rape concubines? Did the Prophet rape sex slaves? This is the question that they asked. What do we say about the Prophet raping slaves? I humbly told the sister, who was emotional and was very ignorant and speaking off of her desires, I told the sister, I advised her, please do not say Prophet Muhammad and rape in the same sentence. Please don't say that. Because when you use the word rape, you automatically what? It's something in your mind of pain and struggle and forcing and abuse. Don't say that. Did the Prophet have relations with a concubine or right-hand possession? Ask that question. But don't use the words that the non-Muslims use and the enemies of Islam use. Muhammad raped slaves. And I mentioned what the Quran says about concubinage. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مُلُومِينَ. I mentioned what the Quran tells us about the issue of concubinage, whether it's sensitive or not. Southern slavery, regardless of the pain and the trauma, I mentioned what Islam says about that. Everyone understand this? In the most peaceful, respectable manner. And then I mentioned an example, a tangible example. Not the specifics, but an example. How can someone do something illegal and wrong to something that he has the autonomy and the ability to utilize? And I mentioned an example of a car. If you locked your keys in the car and you couldn't open up the door and you broke the window of your car to get your keys in the United States, would you be arrested? Yes or no?
No.
Why not? Isn't it vandalism? Aren't you breaking in someone's car? We'll say, why not? It's your car. So the sister, she became emotional. How can you say a woman is like a car? Astaghfirullah, we're not cars, we're not vehicles. How could you say that? They got up, they start clamoring and cheering, oh, the billah, so on and so on and so forth. And she missed the basic point that in Al-Islam, if a man has a right-hand possession, he is allowed to be intimate with her. And that in the Islamic tradition, not the world, is not considered or called what? Rape. And you cannot say they're the same. Accept or not is a different story. Make sense or not is a what? That's a different story. How you feel is a different story. But we have the laws of Islam. We have the definition of other than the laws of Islam. I can only tell you about the what? The laws of Islam. Everyone understand this? So the concept of using the word rape, raping your wife, is extremely problematic. It's extremely unrealistic. It's extremely far-fetched, in my humble opinion. At the end of the day, a woman refuses to have intercourse with her husband. I would say a man should not force himself upon her. Period. She's mad at you. She's being disobedient. Whatever. Do not force yourself upon her. For two reasons. One, what real pleasure are you going to get out of it? Two, what's going to happen when she goes to the police and says, my husband raped me? How is that going to make the Muslims look? Whose side are they going to believe? The default is with the man or the woman, of course. Because the concept of the word rape is such an extremely sensitive word and topic. So that's my answer with regards to that. As far as if a woman refuses to be intimate with her husband, and the husband does something or he falls into something, whose fault does it fall upon? The ulama of Islam, they say that those verses, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ, those who protect their chastity, those who keep themselves chaste, except from their wives, etc. They say that from the harms of zina and from the harms of infidelity is that not only is it a sin upon you, not only is it destroying your soul, your morality, but in most cases is a means of doing the same for your wife or your husband. And that's because when a person does not suffice himself with the halal and he goes into the haram, in most cases he loses the taste for the halal. It's no longer interesting to him. I don't have to be kind and romantic. This whore or this girlfriend or this lover at work, there are no rules. I don't have to provide for her. I don't have to speak with her. We meet up with each other, and there's one thing and one thing only that we know: we're here to have sex. Nothing else. So therefore, I can do what I want, when I want, how I want with this kuffar or this kafir woman. There are no rules. So why should I go to my plain, boring, sarcastic, smart mouth wife and ask for sex? It's the reality of the psychology of men. It's reality now. So when he refuses to sleep with her, that will push her and drive her, or it could push her and drive her to what? Haram as well, because she has desires. The husband refuses to sleep with me. I'm a grown woman. I need desires, and she watches or does or sleeps around, and vice versa. So if there's a woman who refuses to give her husband his rights in the bed, and there's no reason from Quran and Sunnah, and he makes something haram or does something, he'll get a sin, no doubt. There lies no doubt she's also partially responsible. She is also partially responsible. But it does not mean that it is an allowance for you to perform haram. It does not mean that it is an allowance to sleep with another woman because your wife is disobedient. It doesn't mean that. You still must have self-control. You still have to have taqwa. You still have to have muraqabah. And most importantly, brothers and sisters, and I'm going to say this whether the sisters or the brothers get mad or not, this is one of the wisdoms of polygyny. It's one of the wisdoms of plural marriages. For situations like this. There are many wisdoms in plural marriages. But we are not afraid to speak the truth. As Allah, Wallahu la yastahi min al-haq. Allah is not too shy from the truth. And we don't say that polygyny is only made to have more in-laws. Or polygyny is only made to keep more relations with people, the qaba'il. Polygyny is only made to take care of more women. Polygyny is a rule for widows or for old women or women who only have one leg and women that are blind and women that are, no one would marry them. That's wrong. Are those things from the wisdoms of polygyny? Yes. Yes. A woman to be by herself, no one to protect her, no one to provide for her. She can't get married, and another brother says, I'll marry you. But every type or all acts of polygyny isn't charity. That's wrong, and that's a crime against Allah and His Messenger to say that. A man can marry another woman equally beautiful, if not more beautiful, than his first wife. A man is allowed to marry a woman and to say, I'm pleased with my wife, I love her, she's a wonderful woman, but I want another woman. That is not haram, and that's not makruh. That interpretation and that tafsir is from the enemies of Islam. And that has crept into the minds of Muslim scholars who say that. Of course there's wisdom in polygyny, which is not just lustful. But if a man had lustful intention and he wanted to fulfill it in the halal way, he can do what? He get married. And from the wisdoms of polygyny, please be a little patient, from the wisdoms is that it's a balance for everyone. It's a balance for everyone. If a man has strong desires and his first wife is not enough for him, and it doesn't mean she's a bad woman or she's lacking or she's ugly, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. He has desires and he needs more fulfillment. He marries another woman, or would you prefer for him to make zina? To sleep with a woman in the street? Which one would you prefer? Would you want to have a girlfriend? Would you want to have someone that you're sleeping with at work, the secretary, or a Muslimah who prays and covers and fasts and she's clean and chaste? This is a serious question that women have to ask themselves. Which one would you prefer? There's no way that your husband is going to suffice himself sexually just with you. He told you that and he has showed you that. So which one would you like? Sister Fulana that you know, she's a clean woman, or some whore in the street? Ask yourself the question. Also, another very important part of balance is that if a man only sees you every other night, or 2 nights out of the week, or every week, however your arrangement is of polygyny, what are the chances that you're going to give him a very, very hard time and talk smart to him and say, you do it yourself. I'm not cooking you anything. Leave me alone. You do it. I'm tired of this. I'm fed up. What are the chances of that? That's a real serious question. If I came to Stockton every week, Fahmi, how excited would the people be? If I kept coming, they'd say he's not a guest anymore. The more that you see me, the more that you're around me, the less your what? Your value and your appreciation is. And people become spoiled. It's a reality. But I'm only coming once a year. I'm only coming once every 6 months. I'm only coming once every 3 months. It's a different story now. So if there's a woman and she refuses to give her husband the necessary intercourse or necessary love and attention, and he takes on another wife, one or two things are going to take place. Either she's going to become worse. I don't care who you marry. I'm not sleeping with you. And that's not the way of a mu'minah. Or she's going to say, oh man, oh snaps. He got another wife now. I now am forced to do what? I got to step up my game. There's another woman that he's going to see. Maybe she cooks better than me. Maybe she has better hair than me. Maybe she's more polite and respectful and obedient to him. She's going to take that into consideration if she's an intellectual believing woman. And that's for the sheer concept of competition. The sheer concept of competition. Everyone understand this or not? That is a reality. A man gets divorced from a woman. There's a child between the two. 1 week with the father, 1 week with the mother. The mother, the father, the shared custody. They're going to take their children to the movies. They're going to take them to the candy store and take them to the toy store. They're going to try to be as nice and sweet as possible and not to be mean to the child. Why? Because of what?
They can get the motivation from the child towards them.
No doubt. Mommy doesn't say, I can't do this. Mommy doesn't say no. Mommy doesn't say sit down. Mommy doesn't say we can't have candy. You're going to get your act together because you know your time with your child is what? Limited. And there is a clear what? Rival and opponent. Sheikh Ahmed, ma'qul or not? It may be harsh to swallow, but this is reality. I will say, am I making this up? You live in the same household, you may not treat your kids the same way. I'm tired, I gotta go to work, I don't have no extra money. I only see them on the weekend. You're going to make sure that you realize that there's now competition. Who do you like most, me or your father? It's reality. When you become of age, who you want to live with, me or your father? It's real. And people, they know that there's time and attention and love and affection, and they're going to make sure that they step up their game. This is the human nature. We can accept it and embrace it, or we can live in la-la land and live in a fantasy land. And this is what Allah says, Inna Rabbaka, indeed your Lord, what? He is all-knowing, all-wise. He's all-wise, He's all-knowing. He's khabir. Ala ya'lamu man khalaq. Wa huwa latif al-khabir. The one who created, doesn't He know what makes the human beings tick and function? So that's the bottom line, guys. There are many wisdoms in polygyny. We can accept them and embrace them, or we can act like they don't exist, and that's not true, and you only do this and you only do that, and we'll all stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. At the end of the day, if your wife refuses to be with you, admonish her. Tell her to fear Allah. Have sisters remind her you cannot refuse your husband his desires. And if he does not fulfill them in the lawful way, he's going to fulfill them in the haram way. And that's his sin, as we've said. And it's also, you get a piece of the sin as well. You get a piece of the sin as well. لِأَنَّكِ قَدْ تَسَبَّبْتِ فِي الْوُقُوعِ فِي الْفَحِشَةِ. That's because you are a reason behind him falling to fahisha, because he cannot fulfill it in the lawful way. And Allah knows best. You don't have to agree with me, guys. You can disagree, that's fine. I can only say what I feel in my heart. What I believe is the truth. I believe this is more than enough. It's pretty late.
One more question, sir.
We don't want to hold anybody up. You can ask the question. Faddal.
My next question is, because you went schooling over here, you see your kids, when they go to American school, they talk about sex education. And at that time, it's fine. Oh, yes, American schooling. But Sheikh, like you sitting and talking about sex, stop. Sheikh is talking about sex? Well, what is he teaching? When everything is written on Quran, when everything is there, why do we have to believe them?
Clear.
And the other thing which you just said, that, when you're divorced, your kids goes, and the mommy said this, mommy said that. I'm not saying that the man doesn't make stupid decisions, but mommy, why didn't she understand at that time, before this come to this point that, mommy's buying all this, they're giving this attention.
Clear.
Before you come to this point, if you can be rational, you can understand that, and you can save the marriage.
No doubt. No doubt,
I'm not putting women down.
Crystal
And
clear.
I tell you, in my house, Honestly, I'm sitting here in the masjid. My wife, I thank Allah now that you know how wise she is, how kind she is, and because of her, we are in this direction. Because of the patience.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm admitting that.
May Allah bless her. I mean. Last question tonight, guys. I know it's late. With regards to sex education in Islam, yay or nay? As the Sheikh, the brother, clearly said, that if you can't say anything about sex or sex education or anatomy, what about the Quran? Let alone the ahadith. فَلْيَنْظُرُ الْإِنسَانُ مِمَّا خُلِقَ مِنْ مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ يَخْرُجُ etc. The Quran talks about the anatomy in the Quran. The Quran talks about the phenomenon of birth. The Quran talks about ejaculation. It does, it's mentioned. The hadith that I just mentioned to you. A woman asks about a wet dream, making a ghusl. That's sex education. A person becoming pubescent, etc. إِنَّمَا الْمَاءُ مِنَ الْمَاءِ. There are many hadiths which the Prophet talks about parts of the body. And the Prophet ﷺ, he talks about sexual education. May Allah protect us and prevent us. What happened when a woman came and she said to the Prophet ﷺ that my husband, what? A'udhu billah. He says, لَيْسَ مَعَهُ إِلَّا مِثْلَ هَذَا. And she took a piece of her garment. This is what my husband is like. My husband is like this, meaning one or two things. Either he had erectile dysfunction, he does not get erect, he doesn't get hard, or he has a micro penis. One of the two. You may laugh, but this is a real hadith, an authentic hadith. Imagine how embarrassing that would be. She came to the Prophet and she says, my husband has nothing more than this. Do I stay with him? Do I get divorced? What do I do, O Messenger of Allah? Many men, they suffer from this. Whether it is that or that. And the sweeter of the two is what? It's bitter. And this is also from the harms of internet pornography. Many men, they get this problem because of masturbation and internet pornography. It's a reality. So the point is that sex education in Islam is no different than anything else. If it's in the Quran and the Sunnah, it's from our way. If it's not in the Quran and the Sunnah, then it's what? Not from our way. Everyone understand this? Directly in the Quran and the Sunnah, or indirectly. Everyone understand this? The principles of life. So Islam is a complete way of life. A complete way of life. It's not just about being in the mosque. It's not about prayer. It's not just about faith. It's not just about Hajj and Zakat. It's about every single thing that can possibly take place to the human being. You're going to find a direct or indirect piece of instruction in the Quran and Sunnah. So I humbly feel that sex education in the proper way, not being lewd and nasty and things like this, but in the proper way, it should be a part of education and a part of tarbiyah. Teach your children about the birds and the bees. If you don't teach them about it, where are they going to learn it from? A video, or a video game, or porno, or the drunkard down the street, or the pimp, or this prostitute, or this person. You make the choice. Sit down and talk with your son and daughter about sexuality. Didn't come from thin air. You're not a saint. If there was no sexuality, you wouldn't have this many kids. This is human nature. There's nothing wrong with it. Embrace it. Speak the truth. Or would you prefer for your daughter to hear about how she's supposed to be with a man and what she's expected to do with a man from a woman who's been passed around by 20 men? Which one would you prefer? You want your son to be gentle and kind with his wife? You want your son to follow the sunnah? Or you want your son to watch a violent pornographic movie in which he's talking to the woman like this, do this, shut up, and so on and so forth? That's what you want your son to be? That's where he's going to learn if you do not teach him. Son, you have to be patient, son. You have to be gentle. She's your wife. She's not an animal in the street. That's your wife. That's your zawja. You take care of her. You provide for her. Take your time, so on and so forth. Let alone the concept of the anatomy and the proper way of having intercourse. You should teach your children about this at the proper age. At the proper age, I said. And in the proper Islamic light. And I don't think it should be taboo and hidden. And if there are kids going to school, why not have it a part of the curriculum? sexually transmitted diseases and infections. That's a reality. Muslims have them as well. Muslims get them as well. Learning about sexual protection and things like this, it's important. It's important. These things have to be known the basic way. All right, so that's my opinion on that, without being lewd, I said. And without doing it in a reckless manner and making a joke out of it and laughing, but in a proper Islamic way. That's my opinion. That's my what? That's my opinion. As far as custody and divorce and marriage and things like this, then we ask Allah to rectify the situation between husbands and wives, ex-husbands and ex-wives, stepfathers, stepmothers, stepchildren. May Allah rectify the situation. And it's unfortunate when certain things happen in our life, but it's the will of Allah. And Allah, He says, لا تحسبوه شرا لكم. Don't think that it's evil and bad. بل هو خير لكم. Rather, it's good for you. There's good in every situation. If you get divorced, there's good in it if you look at it the right way. There's a custody struggle or battle, there's good in it. Split custody, divided homes, there's good in it if you look at it in the right way. And children or people who specialize in the psychology of children and raising children, they differ. Two madhabs. Some of them say that split custody, joint households or split households are destructive to the children. They'll mess the children up. And others hold the exact opposite madhab. And they say for a child to be with their mother and then will be with their father, they say it's a benefit for the child. And it's good for the child in that situation. The default is that they're supposed to be what? In one house. That's the default. But what do you learn from your parents and not all they do is fight and holler at each other? Every time you see Umi and Abby, they're cursing and fighting and throwing stuff. Is that good for the child? Or the mother sleeps in a room and the father sleeps in a room. He disrespects your mother. Your mother's stupid. Look at her. Your mother's this. Your mother's that. Your mother's that. Is that healthy for the child? That's not healthy. That's just as harmful, if not more harmful. And these specialists, I've done research on this, they say that children being in different homes, it teaches them the ability to discern from right and wrong. And it produces character and strength, in which they see the two ways of the two parents, and they make the choice in life. Abby does this, Umi does that. I have to pick, the what? The path of good or evil. And that is not necessarily the same in one household, in which the one who has the final say, the loudest voice, is oftentimes the evildoer. This is what you're going to do in my house, whether you like it or not. Shave your beard. The father, he says to the son, you're going to shave your beard. I don't care what hadith you read. I don't care what sheikh came from Egypt. I don't care. Shave your beard. Shave your face. That's not the same if the son lives with the mother and she says, it's sunnah, grow the beard. You look beautiful like that, son. You're a wonderful young man with a full beard. Father can't force him to shave the beard. And they choose which is the correct way, let alone taking the good from both parents and avoiding the bad of both parents. So it depends on how you look at life. It depends on how you deal with life. The believer is always supposed to be upon good. Good befalls you, you're thankful to Allah. Not so good things befall you, you're patient with the qadr of Allah. Allah surely knows best. Thank you very much. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad. Only Allah knows what the comments look like, huh? Is identifying yourself as a feminist kufr. خلاص لا ما نجيب هذا فقط من باب that's not, we're not answering no more questions.